Hey, welcome everybody. Josh Reeves back, the MVP cast, How to Become More podcast. I have my man Francois, and today we have a special guest, Shoshanna French. Welcome to the show, Shoshanna.
Thank you for having me.
That was almost a little tongue twister for me in a moment there. Shoshana.
That's all right.
Awesome. Shoshana is out of Denver. She loves the outdoors. She is the intuition expert, business coach. She's a spiritual explorer, loves people, travel, great food, and been in business 20 years. That is awesome. We're excited to have you and to be able to share some insight on this intuition that you have built up inside to be able to share, right?
Yeah, well, everybody has it. I'm excited that's really my purpose, is to have more people tapping in and trusting themselves.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You know, Francois is a coach on thinking into results, and it's wonderful. Bob Proctor, over the 50 years that he's been in practice, you know, intuition is one of those key result areas, you might say, that really kind of allows people to blossom and expand their mind and really do bigger than themselves, right?
Well, there's a whole bunch. There's Bob Proctor, there's Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, all the big names of people talk about intuition. I was at an event I want to say it was 2014, and it was called Success 3.0. And there were some of the biggest names you would know were there. And I was there for my friend. She's going to put the event on, and was making a movie called We Rise Up, which I recommend you check out. It's on Amazon. I was a contributor. Cool movie. But the point is that at that event, it was probably the first time that I was in a room of people who were that successful, openly talking about intuition. My relationship to it is not esoteric, it's practical. It's the way that our brain is designed. So there were all these people talking about, which I know you guys both, especially if you're a coach, Francois, who coaches for results. Almost every coach I know talks about what kind of morning practice are you doing that sets your day right. And so all of them were talking about what were the practices that they do. John Mackey, the creator of Whole Foods, was there. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. There were like all kinds of, great speakers that we've all heard of, read their books. They were all at this event, and they were all talking about, at one point in their morning practice, they dedicate to going inward and listening. And some of them talked about it like we go inward and we listen to our inner wisdom. Some talked about it like I meditate and become open and receptive. Some talked about, connecting with their guru, like all different, I don't know what you want to call it, like all different ways of doing that work. But all of them said in one way or another, every day they spend time going inward. And when I heard that, I was like, see, I am not the only person talking about it. And they're not known for, it's kind of like all these people are talking about it, but no one's really telling you how to. And that's where I come in. Like, I am the how-to expert. How do you connect? How do you know what is intuition versus your ego versus random thoughts? How do you practically apply it? So that's what I do. How do you practically apply intuition to have, greater success, deeper connection to yourself, and ultimately to be connected to your why? All entrepreneurs want that. All entrepreneurs want to be more successful without having to not be something they're not. That's why most of us started a business.
Yeah. Cool. No, I love that. That's a great explanation. And I like how you take it to a different level than most people, right? Like, you're not just talking about intuition. You're really talking about practical tips on how to unpack that and practice it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep, lots and lots of conversation. I work mostly with entrepreneurs who are not new. They've been in business for 3 or 5 years, some 10, 15 years, and they're already successful. But what they're curious about is this next level of success, which for some look like a doubling, in size of their business, or letting their business that's already successful keep going and then starting something else. And they are using all the tools they've learned. They've learned a lot of tools over being successful 3 to 10 years in business, but those tools aren't working. And so intuition becomes this possibility of going inward and finding a way to integrate everything they've ever learned. Intuition doesn't just inform what to do next, but it can also tell you kind of to take all these different tools like mindset and affirmations and manifestation and the law of attraction and all that. Like, how do you mix it all together? And intuition can help you navigate that. So that's what I do mostly with clients.
That's awesome. So Francois, go ahead and take it away and see what, Shoshana has obviously given us a lot to think about so far, but what is we have a special treat for at the end, right? Go ahead and share with the audience what that is, and then we'll get into some questions that we've asked Shoshanna.
Thank you. Yes. And Shoshanna, thanks for that introduction. And by the way, you say all those big names. They talk about I'm a national trainer with Tony Robbins. I was on stage with him facilitating with Tony Robbins. So the things that you're talking about, I was beside him and teaching it. And 6 years with Bob Proctor as my personal coach and mentor, one-on-one as well. And Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the man, 13 years with him. And so, yeah, what you're talking about, those big guys, I worked with them, and that's pretty amazing. And so, yeah, they do transform lives. That is awesome. But to transform lives, we need to have the knowing doing gap. A lot of people know what to do, but they're not doing it. And so at the end, we're going to show people the 3 factors that determine your income. And those 3 factors are simpler than you think, but they make such a big impact. And we're going to cover that at the end of the podcast. So stick around. Excellent. Back to you, Josh.
Yeah. So you kind of gave us some insight, Shoshanna, but tell us how long have you been in business, and how did you get started in this business of being the intuitive coach and speaker?
So I've actually owned my business, Simple Spirit, for 17 years, 17 and a half. I'll be 18 next year in January. However, I've been doing coaching or facilitating for 20 years. I worked for an educational company for almost 3 years and led leadership training and programs for them, Landmark Education. Some people have heard of them. Some people haven't. They're an international personal development and professional development company. So I worked for them. And just after leaving staff, when I figured out that I loved what I was doing there, but there was more, and I just didn't know what the more was. I kind of went through a series of really terrible jobs. And then I ended up in a group coaching program called Money Mastery. And in that program, we were transforming our relationship to not just money, but also the world, from scarcity to abundance. And we read all the big books. We read Think and Grow Rich. We read Your Money or Your Life. We read Smart Women Finish Rich. We read all these like brilliant books we listened to Prosperity Consciousness, which is old school. We listened to it on tape. That's how long ago that was. But in that course, one of the things that the coach said is everybody is going to start a business. So figure out what you would offer as a business. Now, in my family, there was one entrepreneur, my dad. He's a motorcycle mechanic. He owned a shop. And I watched him grow his business from service-based only to selling bikes, to selling parts. And I kind of watched him grow, over many, many years, but watching somebody and him teaching me about entrepreneurship were not quite the same thing. So when she said, let's start a business, I come from teachers, therapists, nurses, like pretty traditional, careers. And so I was like, I don't know what I would do for a career. I mean, like for a business. And she just said, just choose one of the things that you're passionate about. And I'm a singer, a songwriter. You saw when you asked this question, in preparation for the podcast, what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy? And I enjoy a lot of things, Like it's kind of ridiculous, actually.
We ask you one question and you're gone, baby. Holy moly. How long you been doing this? Here we are, because we have some maybe format that we can follow up, so we can have some systematic use of what it is that you're saying, because it's very important and interesting what you're saying. It's going in many different places. So maybe some structure to it would enable even me to have a better understanding of what it is that you do step by step. So, because you said that.
Yeah.
You did Landmark, and Landmark is a beginning phase, and then people need to move on after. So, but what aspect of what it is that you do that you like most, and why? So just that question, what aspect of what you do that you like?
And Francois, you should know that I talk in stories. So you will try very hard to rein me in, and I will do my best, but it is very hard for me to not talk in stories. That's how I was trained.
So what aspect of what you do?
So what I love most about what I do is I'm a problem solver. So perfect. I read a lot and I learn a lot, and then I love to apply it to what I'm doing. So my favorite thing is to take what I have learned over 28 years and being trained in all the things that I love, and then find a new way to offer it to train new people. So in the beginning, who I worked with were just people who needed answers. And that was mostly who I worked with in the beginning of my business. And as time went on, now I work with politicians. I work with Fortune 500 company owners. I work with NFL coaches. I work with Broadway stars. So what they're dealing with, they're all human, but what they're dealing with, their level of what they're dealing with and how they would apply intuition is different. So that's the thing I love most about what I do, is having to be creative and thoughtful to help different kinds of people.
Yes, awesome. I love it. So can you tell us the biggest challenge that you faced in your professional life? And the reason we're asking these questions is we're trying to empower everybody that's listening to this podcast that it's okay to struggle, but it makes you human also, as to find out what it is. And then just so you know, the next question will be, how do you overcome it? So if you want to go with a story, go for it.
The biggest, I would say, in my business, the biggest challenge I went through was in 2017. So at that time, I was working all the time. I was probably with clients 5 days a week, and then I still had to work on my business. So if you're listening to this live and you're a business owner, you get it. There's working in your business and working on your business. And so I was primarily focused working in my business, not on it. And so then I end up working 6 to 7 days a week, and I was burned out. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to close shop. I'm going to go do something else. And so I went and looked into PhD programs, because I've come from an educated family, and I thought maybe I'll become a psychologist. So I looked into a whole bunch of different programs. So that for me was, at that point, I had been building the business for 12 years. So to be at that place of burnout where I was ready to close, pack it up, was really hard, because no joy was in it. It was just a lot of hustle and a lot of just exhaustion.
So how did you overcome it?
In 2 ways. One is I did inner work, because if you're a business owner and you're not doing inner work, you should hire Francois, do your inner work, or hire Josh. I don't know what Josh does, but hire a coach. So I did the inner work. And what I discovered was I was not using my intuition in my business. I was using it for clients, but I wasn't actually using it to navigate how I was growing my business. I was just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall, and it was all sticking, but that didn't mean that it was working. It was growing, but I was not having any fun. So I tapped in, and then I remembered, and this was what came out of the insight of my intuition. I remembered that I'm the one who created the business. So I could close it and not have any hardship about it, because I'm the one who created it. I could close it, or I created it so I could recreate it. And that is ultimately what I chose. I recreated it. I don't work with clients more than 3 to 4 days a week. I have a day dedicated every week to work in my business, and I begin to hire a team. And I've been acquiring that team since 2017. And now I have people who do the things for me that take me a long time and that I'm not good at. So that's how I overcame it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I like that.
What's funny is I almost used my intuition factors in this. And what I heard you saying, you said I was the business owner, I created it, right? And I was anticipating you saying, well, I created it, so now I had to recreate it, right? And that's exactly what you said. So again, another point of when you listen and you seek to understand, you're able to kind of feel what's coming next, right? Is that a fair statement?
It depends on how your intuition works. I'm not a feeler. So there are some people who get a feeling about things, but that's not how my intuition works.
I got you.
I'm more I get a picture in my mind of what could be.
Oh, okay.
And then that helps me navigate. Some people get a sense, a gut instinct. Some people know, some people see. And then for some people, it's a really smart person is behind them being don't do that or do that. So it just depends on how your intuition works.
Got you. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because we all thinking pictures, right? A lot of people don't understand that unless you get into the inner and outer stuff, right? We think in pictures. So that makes sense. And I maybe my picture wasn't quite there yet. It was just a feeling that was driving towards the picture, right?
Or pictures cause feelings. When you look at pictures, they create feelings, and those feelings push you into action or no action. So
that's right.
As you said, I appreciate that. Thanks for bringing this on, Shoshanna. Everybody is different. There's no such thing as cookie cutter, that you have to do it this way. That's forcing people that, I heard this one day. It says, you cannot tell a fish that he needs to climb a tree in order to be successful. It's a fish. It stays in water. And so therefore, it is important for everybody to know that you need, and I guess it comes back, Shoshanna, to the intuition of feeling that thing that, hey, is this the way that I need to go or not? And the best example, I'm very visual myself. And if you tell a fish to climb a tree to get success, that's not going to happen. You got to kill the fish. And so it's important to, yeah, definitely. I like that. That's cool.
Well, and the very primary thing I do with every client is the very first thing we do is you take the intuitive blueprint test. It's a test I designed to quantify intuition, because intuition seems not quantifiable, but personality is not quantifiable. And we have Myers-Briggs. So, or strengths test, Clifton Strengths or whatever, Enneagram. So I designed a test to help people have a quantifiable like number and look, this is how your intuition works. And then from those numbers, I can train anyone how to replicate how their intuition works.
Excellent. I like that. I say that if you have a prescription without an analysis, it's like malpractice. So you need to have that standardized at first, at least to give us an idea where we're going. That's really good. Shows your professionalism, Shoshanna. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and it's two sides, right? So there's structure. Our brain needs structure. It's the way we build new neural pathways, but our brain also, our being needs the willingness to let go of control and be willing to surrender. And those two parts are the way that I train people in intuition. If I worked with people who were looking for an expert, it'd be a little bit different, but I work with people who are already successful. So they tend to not be people who are great at surrender. Like almost every coaching client I have right now are highly, highly successful and sought out leaders. So being willing to surrender and get quiet is a little bit harder for them. Their mind is working a lot.
That's why they're successful in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So what's the biggest lesson you learned from what you overcame?
I kind of mentioned it already, but I'll repeat it, which is that it's something a coach said to me, which is if you create a business to give yourself a job, you'll work for the rest of your life. So I'm not really interested in working like a 4-letter word. I'm more interested in creating and helping people. So I get to create my business so that the format of it is what actually brings me great joy and allows me to do what I want to do, which is help people. So that's probably the biggest lesson.
I appreciate that. The question, the things that you answered, one of them was, I really love, and I'm a big proponent of that one. It says, what's your biggest takeaway? It says, first, I was the one who created it all. Taking responsibility enables you to now be able to deal with things. If it's COVID, my mother-in-law, my husband, my cousin, my sister, my kids, then you have disempowered yourself and empowered others. But when you say that I'm the one who created it, of course, sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow, but now at least you can do something about it. And that's what Josh alluded to. He says, so you realize that it was you that created it. And that's the thing that's fantastic. Once we realize this, now we can start doing things because we are literally empowered to change our destiny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now, Shoshanna, you mentioned one of the questions we asked you if you had a special MVP formula, and I like to use this little acronym POW, the pause, ask, listen. Can you kind of unpack that for us and how you use that strategy?
I do want to give credit where credit's due, though. Whitney McDuff is my PR person, and she's the one who told me I needed an acronym so that it was easy to remember. Because you probably guessed in like the 20 minutes you've been on this call that I have a lot of words. So she was like, you need less words, more direct. So PAL stands for pause, ask, listen. Mostly in life, especially highly successful people, which it sounds like all three of us are, we are always up to something. We're always creating something. We're always reviewing something. We might be learning something. We always have something to do. So the thought of unplugging and pausing is like a luxury, but it's not actually a luxury. It's a requirement. So giving yourself time, I kind of said that in the beginning, give yourself time every day to pause. So to me, pause means being off your phone, not being available to others, being available to yourself. That's what pause is. Ask is intuition is a tool for inquiry. It is not a tool for solving problems or fixing problems. So if you use intuition, for example, if your car breaks down in that moment, use data. Oh, my car's broken down. What's going on? Let me call the mechanic, get it fixed. In that moment, using your intuition, not so helpful with your car, but it might be helpful to help you know how to get out of the position you're in, but not fixing the car. Does that make sense? So to me, asking is about taking a moment to get clear. What is the inquiry? What is it that you want to know that's outside of what you already know? So without giving more about that, there are lots of entrepreneurs who invent things that other people say are not possible. And it's because they asked a question. Like Tony Robbins asked a question, and I've had the opportunity to meet him. I talked to John Mackey. He's the one who created Whole Foods. What was the question that he asked? We all ask questions as entrepreneurs, and the business idea is the answer to the question, but it's not inside of what you know, it's outside of that. It's that inspiration. And then L is for listen. Listening is hard because sometimes what we hear, what we feel, what we see, what we know is outside of what makes sense to us or what we believe is possible. So like what you were talking about, Francois, is, mindset work, that inner work, doing the work about our inner dialogue, limiting beliefs, the way in which we engage with the world. So listen takes practice. And if you listen enough, you'll start to recognize what's in the way of trusting what you get. So that's pause, ask, listen.
So PAL is a personal acronym for you to pause, for you to ask yourself questions, and for you to listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I tell you, I am so service oriented that when I saw PAL, I says, this is perfect. I pause before I ask a question to understand what they're saying. Then I listen to what they tell me so that I can help them better. So actually that acronym works both ways.
It totally works both ways.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I do love that too. And so do you use that obviously for your personal, but you use that with clients as well?
Well, and I'm oriented to teaching. So like all of us have a gift, and my gift is teaching. So I take really complex concepts and I make them simple and applicable no matter what you do. So I work with lawyers, and the way that they apply intuition is not quite the same way as my NFL coach, and not quite the same way as the politician I work with, and not quite the same way as the person who runs a clothing empire. Those are all really, they're applying it in different situations, but PAL works for everyone. It works for everyone. Everyone should be pausing, going inward, asking the right questions, which are inquiry questions, and then listening to what your intuition is actually communicating.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what is, tell us a little bit about one of your superpowers you mentioned on here, which I thought was really interesting, especially being that you said you work globally, right?
Yeah.
So do you speak other languages?
No, I'm a typical American. I only speak English. I speak really broken Spanish. I've been trying to learn for years, but no, I only speak English, which is why I would want the superpower of being able to hear a language once and then be able to speak it immediately.
Wow.
Francois,
that would be the superpower I would want.
We'll have Francois speak a little French and see if that can correlate. You can just pick it up right away, right?
Bonjour, Shoshanna. Ça fait plaisir de te rencontrer aujourd'hui. Merci de partager avec nous toute l'information que tu as acquis depuis ces 20 dernières années.
Ooh. It's beautiful. Parlez-vous no français?
No, and that's okay. My dad always used to say, always respect someone that speaks your language with an accent, because he knows at least one more language. And it's something my dad taught me. And I like the fact that you said the superpower is to hear a language and then speak it, because to me, languages are building bridges. And so to the parts that we couldn't before. That's why I went to Concordia University in Montreal rather than McGill, because it was very cosmopolitan. You had Rastafarians, Black people, Chinese people, Lebanese, Greek, and people from Croatia, people from Russia. And so the new ways that they bring about, they see things so differently, but by looking at this way, your awareness increases so much. So yes, indeed, building bridges through languages is awesome. Yeah, that's a superpower indeed. First time I hear it, but I love it.
Yeah. That would be my choice. If I could, little magic wand, get a superpower, that's the one I'd want.
Yeah. And I like the way you touched on that, Francois, creating the bridges. I'm a firm believer in we can all unite, because at the end of the day, I would go by the philosophy that as humans, we all bleed red, right? So it doesn't matter the language, the dialect, the religion, the color, the race, none of that matters, right? We're all human beings, right? Yes. And we can be, tribal as one. I mean, the world's not, but we could be. And we're going to do it one piece at a time on the show. We're building a community. And again, we thank you, Shoshanna, for being part of this, this movement that we're on. So segueing in, you kind of talked about, you have a couple different niche clients, right, that you work with. Is there one particular group of people that you specifically like working with most?
No, actually, there's not. I would say not niche as in like the book focus. Like I'm not nichey that way. I am an intuitive business owner. So I work with the people who I'm drawn to work with. If they had characteristics that would be similar, they're all already successful, mostly business owners or C-suite level leaders in larger corporations.
Oh.
But outside of that, they're in a variety of industries. I work with clients in 23 countries, so they're pretty varied. The people I work with are very, very different. But because I am intuitive, I can adjust how I coach, what I coach with the people I work with. So it works pretty well.
Yeah. That almost sounds like a superpower in itself. You know, like you said, you're intuitive to the point that you can kind of be able to pivot and adjust as needed. That's awesome. I got a question on, you said you're in 23 countries, right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
How did you, can you share how you've acquired, you know, clients in that many different areas?
Primarily referrals. I mean,
Okay.
I'm being conscientious of my stories, Francois. You are welcome. Because normally I would tell a really long story right here, but I won't because I'm all stories. But yeah, it mostly through referral. And also the people I work with, the kind of work I do is very transformative, much like the work you do, Francois. And people then share, like people are changed and then they're changing, people in their life notice and they go, what's been going on? And they say, I've been working with this woman. And they all call me, honestly, every client calls me something different. So, which is fine. It throws a little bit like, what are you known for on its head, but whatever. Some people call me seer. Some people call me an intuitive coach. I have a client who calls me her spiritual coach, whatever, doesn't really matter. But then they share it. I have one client who has quite a following. He's in BC, my favorite area that I've been to anyway in Canada. And he has quite a following. He's a coach of coaches, owns a company called Warrior Sage, and he's very generous in sharing me with his large CEOs from around the world. And he had me on Facebook Lives and, 3,000 people would see those. And that was very helpful. So that's kind of how it went. And also I did some work in other countries, so that also helped.
So one of the things, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it right here, right now. She said one word, and it's actually on my wall over there. That word is referrals. And most people say, oh, I ask and reluctantly, and they're not too sure exactly how to ask for referrals. Well, case in point, Shoshanna is in 23 countries around the world because of referrals. If referrals is not an arrow in your quiver, it is now time for you to develop it.
Yeah.
Google it, find a coach, do something. But referrals, you've just been, the proof's in the pudding. 23 countries out of referrals. It is a skill that needs to be developed by every entrepreneur, obviously. Thank you so much for.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Could I offer one thing?
Yes,
absolutely. I think people think that what you have to do is develop a way to talk about referrals. But if people love working with you, they're going to ask, like I have clients ask me, what can I do for you? Literally, my clients ask me that. What can I do for you? And I always go, oh my gosh, that's so generous. Thank you. What I love is opportunities to speak. So I would love for you to introduce me to people that are bringing speakers in for lunch and learns or seminars for companies. And obviously you can send every person that you think would be a good fit. And then I tell them what a good fit would be. More people like you, right? More people like you. People love that. And then I send them to a link on my website for a discovery call. So it's not this long conversation. All I'm doing is doing what I love really well. And if I do that, then people ask me. So that's sort of the thing. You may be blocking, whoever's listening to this, you may be blocking referrals because you get uncomfortable when people are like, oh my gosh, how can I help you? Because you as the business owner are like, no, I help you. No, it's reciprocal. Like if people want to refer you, let them. It's like their joy in life to share something they love. Hello, just wanted to offer that.
Yeah. And it shows too that you give an enormous amount of value to your clients, because, you know, typically people refer, you know, other professionals when they've, you know, received
like, and trust.
a high level of value, and they know, like, and trust, like Francois just said. Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So segueing in the concluding part. So what other question did you have for her, Francois?
Well, how can
What are
people
the
get a hold
nugget
of
you
you?
want to pull out?
I was going to say, how can people get a hold of you?
I am very easy to find. Thank you, social media. You can find me on Instagram. That's a great place to follow me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. If you're listening to this live and you're like, I kind of want to know more about what she does, I want to have a one-on-one conversation, I will find the live and I'll put the link for a discovery call. If you own a business, we could have a discovery call. That's a great one-on-one conversation. But if you just want to follow me and see what I'm all about, you can find me on Shoshanna French Stokes on Instagram, or Shoshanna French on LinkedIn. Easy to find me.
Excellent. And plus, Josh is good at this. Under these podcasts, he puts the links so people can get a hold of you. That is absolutely great.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks, Josh.
So what is your mission as an entrepreneur to end it all?
I had a hard time thinking about this because you guys kind of like give people some time to think about it.
Yes.
Here's what I came up with, the shortest I could come up with, which is my mission is to help people. My mission is to help people. And how I want to help people is to have them turn towards themselves and learn a level of trust so that they can be doing the things in the world that they're here to do. So when people trust themselves, they invent things that solve the world's biggest problems, whether it's the girl in India who in her science project came up with an algae that eats plastic in the ocean, whether it's one of my clients, his biggest dream since college was to win a Super Bowl ring as a coach. And he did that 2 years in a row, whether it's, being able to transition their company because of what kind of how brick and mortar buildings had a real tough time during COVID. She really transitioned her company from that to an online company. And that happened because of her intuition. And she helps people be more healthy. It's a Pure Barre studio. Like, I want people doing the thing that they're inspired to do without all of the baggage and fully aligned. So that's my mission as an entrepreneur, is to free people up to their big why and give them a tool that helps them really trust themselves and be free to do so. That's why I'm here.
I love it. It's more of don't live your life from the outside in, but rather the inside out. It's inside
exactly.
Find it. This is absolutely great. I love it, Shoshanna. Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
With us.
And, one of the things that you mentioned that I want to touch on real quick is that, whatever the higher power one believes in, right? They say God is the creator and we all have creative faculties within us, right? We were put here to be creative. And if you look at history, right, the internet was thought of once in someone's mind, right? And now here we are on the internet broadcasting this, right? The thought to fly like a bird with the Wright brothers, who were nothing but bicycle mechanics, right? To many, they had that vision and they put that creative faculty to work and they made it a vision become their reality. And
one of the things many people don't know, we talk about the Wright brothers. I like to put this one out. Whenever you have these ideas, these intuition that's coming out, you're going to be stopped like crazy to make it happen. Did you know that the Wright brother, their father was a preacher, a Baptist preacher, and he told them, you will burn in hell because you're trying to fly. Can you imagine your father figure that you love and emulate is now telling you that what you're doing is no good, you're going to burn? Like, whoa, and they overcame that. So whenever, the reason I'm saying this, and I got shivers thinking about it, whenever you have these things inside you want to come out, you will get opposition. That's okay. If it's inside of you, go for it. If you thought about it, you can make it happen. Get some help, get some support, get some people to help you. That's why we do How to Become More VIP. We empower entrepreneurs to be fired up, because once you're fired up, you're going to be unstoppable. Because if you're on really big fire, someone throws a bucket of water. If you have a big fire, it's not out because you keep burning. Get it from the inside out. Make it happen. It's very powerful. Those Wright Brothers story, that portion, I don't know if you guys knew about it, but this is insane. If my dad would have done, I would like, what? And so they still overcame it. Because of that, we're traveling all over the world, which is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for adding that little nugget. And for all you know, I mean, I mentioned them a lot. So now everybody knows the little bit more adversity that they overcame to provide what we take for granted sometimes, right? To just hop on a plane and go to Europe or, you know, wherever it may be, right? That is awesome.
I also think it's worth noting, sorry, I think this is important, is that they weren't the only ones doing it. So it's like for everyone who always goes like, but I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. It doesn't matter because all of us get inspired. You do what your part is. There were multiple people around the world at the same time trying to figure out flying.
It was
not just Wright Brothers. So there are oftentimes people who are, however you believe, whether because we're all connected or we're all shared consciousness, but all people, as Elizabeth Gilbert say, are visited by the muse, and you can listen to it or not. But when you listen to it, and like what I love how you guys say that, and you get fired up about your passion and you pursue it. And then what I say, which is community is the thing that will carry you through versus having to be all on your own. When community carries you through, you can achieve literally anything, even with adversity with your parents or religion or whatever. So I just wanted to add that piece because all of us have access to this network of the muse, of this information for achieving what we really desire.
There's more not created than created, and we pick the new creation from what's out there. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Exactly, 100%.
And time is running out. How about we get to the 3 factors that help you determine your income?
Go ahead and take it away.
Are you ready? Number one, the number one factor that determines your income is the need for what you do. The need for what you do. If there's no need for what you do, well, why can you make any difference? And so, and this is a story that's interesting. 10 years ago, people were talking about and saying about this philosophy of the need what you do for. Oh, this is like, if you do underwater basket weaving, like there's no need for that. Because of that, someone, and if you look on the internet, there's websites with hundreds of thousands of views of underwater basket weaving. This is insane. But all this to say that, coming back to, if you have it inside of you and you want to make it come out, that's okay. There's more challenges if there's absolutely no need, but the need for what you do. So if there's a need for what you do, if you answer yes to that one, you're on the right path. The second one is your ability to do it. How good are you at doing it?
Great one.
Sometimes it makes people say, oh, I'm a this, I'm a that. I got a certificate. Okay, but what about the results? Yeah. What is it that you're doing? Like it's nice to have titles and everything. No offense to titles, they're good to have. We need to educate ourselves. But your ability to do it, number 2, is one of the biggest impact on your income. If you're good at it, guess what? You're going to get referrals in 23 countries and going on and on and on. So, and the third one is, how hard is it to replace you? How hard is it to replace you? So therefore, as Shoshanna said, for the flying, there were many people competing to get them in the air first. Well, how hard is it going to be to replace you? How fast are you? How efficient are you? All these things you need to work on yourself. So your ability to, first one is the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and how hard it is to replace you. Work most on number 2, your ability to do it. Because if, of course, there's a need for what you do, your ability to do it, as you increase it, will make it very hard for you to be replaced. Those 3 things, ponder them, write them, rewind them, listen to them again. The need for what you do. There is a need for what you do. Perfect. Your ability to do it. Get more information and then study and apply it, because I say information to create transformation needs integration. And unless you have integration, it's only information. And Google is full of it, full of free information. You need to integrate in order to impact. So get very good at what you do. And as you do this, well, number 3 takes care of itself. You'll become irreplaceable because you're taking a spot in they call it the blue ocean. You create your own blue ocean. And that's the 3 things that will help you determine your income. There you have it. And
that's right.
On those 3.
That's right. And to summarize that up, thank you, Francois. I want to just touch on for everybody out there to note that amateurs compete and professionals create.
That's it.
Right. So you're a professional in your space. Go out there and create. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry that there's 10 other people doing the same thing. They're not you. We're all individual beings, and that's what separates. You could have 1,000 real estate agents, right? But what makes you different from the next? And that's what you want to focus in on. And again, as Francois said, focus in on the ability to do what you do. Absolutely.
Can I offer one thing? Because I love what you said. And what's cracking me up is you asked me this question, which is if there are entrepreneurs who are struggling, what would you offer them? Like what to do? And literally what I wrote was 2 of the 3 things you just said. One is I said that sometimes it's right product, wrong market, and sometimes it's right person, wrong product. So what I would say is that the willingness to pivot to address who you really want to work with, the thing you're offering. If the people don't want it that you want to work with, how can you repackage or redo what you're offering so they actually want it? What I originally did in my business 17 years ago is not the same thing now, because I don't work with the same kind of people. They don't want to meet me in a coffee shop and have me tap into their life. What they want is structured training and leadership to help them succeed. That's what they want. That's not the same thing, but I had to be willing to shift. So it's all I would say is this, like, it's not in addition to what you said, it's definitely inside of it, which is get really good at what you do and not be attached to how you do it.
Yes.
Not willing to pivot, especially because of all this uncertainty we've had, right? But because of the external uncertainty we've had over the last 2.5 years, if you're not willing to pivot and to shift how you do business, you can't continue to be successful. I don't care how good you are. Every business I knew pivoted in some way over the last 2.5 years. So I just would offer that.
And thank you so much. And to summarize everything, we cannot do it alone.
That's
you don't
right.
know what you don't know. You need someone else. If you feel stuck, reach out. Reach out to Josh. Reach out to Shoshanna. Reach out to Francois. Reach out to someone else, because you don't know what you don't know, and it does hurt you. We can't figure it out. I have 3 coaches myself because there's things I don't see. And so it is commensurate to being able to pivot. You have to be teachable, listen to others, and get to the next level. So if you're stuck, if you feel stuck, reach out. You cannot do it alone. Think about this. You're good at what you do. You're helping other people. Guess what? They can help you as well. And so that's how this world becomes wonderful, that we get together in harmony to help one another. I like to say that when the tide rises, every boat rises with it, big or small, and we're all in that family. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Shoshanna, for being here. Josh, how to become more the MVP. We want to empower each and every entrepreneur to be fired up, because once you are, you will make things happen and make a difference in the lives of those that are waiting for you. Get out there and make it happen. Thank you, everybody.
Indeed. Thank you, Shoshanna. Appreciate you being on here. And for everyone, we'll have her information in the description below. This has been another incredible episode on the MVP Cast, How to Become More. Thanks again, Francois. And thank you, Shoshanna. Everybody, make it a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.